Heartbeat Alaska is made possible by Kupik Carlisle Transportation, your full-service transportation and logistics company. Heartbeat Alaska is brought to you in part by Brown's Electric Lighting Gallery. Thank you, Brown's Electric, for your generous support of Heartbeat Alaska.
Heartbeat Alaska is also sponsored by the Norton Sound Economic Development Corporation, serving the fisheries of the Bering Strait region.
Heartbeat Alaska is also brought to you by Frontier Flying Service. Thank you, Frontier, for getting Heartbeat Alaska airborne.
This program is also brought to you by ASRC Energy Services, a subsidiary of Arctic Slope Regional Corporation.
1, 2, 3, 4, let's go.
It's Heartbeat.
It's a fabulous show.
Alaska.
Hi, Heartbeat Alaska.
It's Heartbeat. Alaska.
Pull up a chair and enjoy the show.
Hear it from Sitka to Barrow. Gather around for Jeannie's show. It's the Aleut, the Indian, and the Eskimo. It's the Aleut, the Indian, and the Eskimo.
Welcome one, welcome all.
I'm Jeannie Green, your hostess for this week. Well, in school, we normally learn reading, writing, and arithmetic. Well, how about scraping and cutting and picking and mixing? Tired of the old routine when you go to school? Predictable courses, learning about other cultures? Well, let's travel to Russian Mission, Alaska, where part of the curriculum is learning about their own traditional ways. They are people of pride. They're people of tradition. They are people of Yupik descent. They're people who have carved a life for themselves on the banks of the mighty Yukon River, long before any explorer claimed their discovery. They are survivors in a world that has changed before their eyes. They are the people of Russian Mission. Rested on the side of a hill on the banks of the Yukon River sits the Yupik village of Russian Mission. Originally known as Iqaluit, Russian Mission is a mostly native community that is heavily rooted in a subsistence lifestyle. From the Yukon River, they take their fish, and from the land, their caribou, and other wild game that make up their diet. Other supplies and goods are brought in by plane year-round and by barge during the summer months. During the winter months, the frozen river serves as a highway between villages. Although Russian Mission may look like just another village on the Yukon River, there is something amazing taking place in this Yupik Eskimo community, something that other villages are taking notice of. It all began a few years ago when Russian Mission was faced with a dilemma that was gradually worsening.
Somewhat out of necessity, a few years ago, we met with the traditional council, city council, advisory school board, to look at the problem that Russian Mission had two big problems that stood out. One, worst attendance in the district, okay? Had a lot of kids who dropped out of school. And their test scores had fallen to about the lowest in the district. So things were not good. And when we looked at when kids dropped out, they were dropping out at 12 and 13 years old. Okay, some even younger. They're dropping out basically junior high, they were saying enough and quitting.
What emerged from the meeting was a unique approach to education.
So we decided, design a program that was more activity-oriented to interest that age level, try to get those kids back in school.
The secret to this program was no secret at all. It is instead a timeless Yupik tradition that has been practiced for thousands of years.
Traditionally, kids about that age would have gone aside to begin to learn their adult roles. So the boys would have gone to the men's house, okay, to be trained to be hunters, okay. and the women would have been assigned to the women to learn their task in life. Okay, so there would have been a division, but it would have been, you know, to prepare for adulthood. And by schools coming in here, mostly just in the 1950s, we replaced that system, but we didn't replace it. We said, instead of subsistence skills, come to learn to read and write. Okay, and the problem with that is we've never given a real purpose for that in the village, in terms of, does reading and writing provide you more food? It's provided a few jobs. Has it provided enough jobs for our graduates? No, it has not. Do people who stay in the village then still need to subsist? And do they still need those skills? Yes. Have we helped with those? No. We've interfered with them. So it was a conscious decision to say, no, we need to be part of the education for people to live well here. And living well here means, one, you know a few safety rules to keep yourself alive on the river and to keep yourself alive during the winter. That's fundamental. Okay, let's take care of those first. Then you need some wisdom, some knowledge on how to feed yourself with all these resources that are around you. We've got the best diet in the world, you know, on our doorstep. We need to know how to use that.
Let's travel to the Yukon now and learn how their unique way of education is a hit with the kids. In the fall of 2001, the Subsistence Education Program was put to the test. The youth spent 2 weeks in the wilderness learning a variety of skills and lessons that not only sharpened their subsistence skills, but honed their academic skills as well.
They'd go moose hunting, they'd go bird hunting, they'd go sighting their rifles, they'd go reload shells. It all had to do with subsistence. They'd pick berries. Even the science class would be out in the field and they'd be gathering samples for science they do later on in the school year. But the gathering happened then, at a gathering time. Junior high kids we sent off to camp for 2 weeks. Okay, and they learned about picking berries, they learned about medicinal plants, they did some hiking, which they'd never done before, you know, climbing mountains, things like this. And it was just how to live and be comfortable out there. The part that we're taking the leap in, education-wise, is saying by doing that, one, kids will come back to school, and they did. We had, the first year we instituted this, let's say in a big way, we had 14 kids come into school. Many of them have been out of school 2 and 3 years, but 14 that had been out of school at least a year came back in.
At the mouth of Tucker Slough, about 35 miles north of Russian Mission, the group began their journey. 18 students paddled 5 miles down Tucker Slough to the mouth of Mountain Creek. This was the site of the fish camp, one of 3 different camps within the program. 6 students stayed here to learn about setting a net, getting a fish out of the net, and how to cut and clean fish. Mary Peters and Okolina Polti showed the students how to cut fish. Students also went berry picking while at this camp. They used the berries and the fish to make a gudak. The second group of students paddled on downstream, another 4 miles to the hunting camp. Here, Richard Dennis instructed the students in gun safety and how to handle a rifle.
Remember what we said, sight alignment, breath control, and squeeze. Well, anyway, we're on the paper though, right? And so it could be these sights need a little adjusting, right? And so we'll let the next person shoot a little bit and see.
This camp was on a small sheltered lake that allowed the students to practice their canoeing skills.
Dexter, go get that paddle.
Stand back to the fire line now.
The third group paddled 8 miles up Mountain Creek to Beaver Camp. At this site last year, the 7th and 8th grade students built a small cabin to be used during the trapping season. While at this camp, students explored small streams that are the habitat for several beaver families.
Okay, so what type of tree did he take down?
Cotton.
Cottonwood, okay. Good. To build with or to eat?
To eat.
To eat. It looks like he's eating this from the branches at the end.
Look at it.
Yeah.
Dad needed to even back there, look. Right there.
Max and Pauline Nikolai supervise the students. While at camp, Max brought in a moose and several birds. The students learned how to butcher a moose and how to pluck and cook geese.
Don't lean on me.
That's good. That's a neat
Each week, the students traveled to a different camp where they would spend 3 or 4 days. At the end of the final week, everyone paddled down Tucker Slough to where it rejoins the Yukon River at a place called Dogfish. Some students covered a distance of 26 miles in one day.
When you come back, find a partner and bring the other canoe over.
At Dogfish, they lashed the canoes together to form a raft for traveling down the Yukon 20 miles back to Russian Mission.
This is the big thing, is whenever you have something like writing, kids will say, oh, I don't know what to write about. Okay. And if it's something arbitrary, then they're not interested. But by taking the kids out, they have stories to tell. And we're still in a society that's an oral tradition. They're storytellers. So by giving the kids all these experiences, they became the storytellers. So when they get back, they've got something to write about. Okay. So on a creative level, that's fine. And what we know too is that the more they write, the better they're able to read, because they're using vocabulary. Okay. And then too, on a technical level, what we did particularly with 7th and 8th grade is we get the research articles. You know, if we're catching pike, then we get the Fish and Wildlife information on pike. We find out where pike are, how big they get, how do you tell how old they are, all this information. When do they spawn, where do they go in the winter? Everything we could find, we get it in, and the 7th and 8th graders sit down there and they read it. And this becomes, they read it, they turn around, they do comprehension questions off of that, just like it's a reading class, and they do written summaries, just like a reading class. So this is their reading practice, but it's about content they know. And they know about pike, you know. With 7th and 8th grade boys, they know everything there is to know about pike. Okay, and we find out they find a little bit more. So they read about pike. If we're going to go out and we're going to trap some beaver, and they go out and set some snares, and they come back and they read about beaver. Okay, and they learn the difference between a den and a lodge. They learn the usual size of beavers. They may be 40, 60 pounds. A big old guy may be 100 pounds. They learn all this information. So that adds to the knowledge they've already gathered.
Not only are the kids in Russian Mission learning this fabulous way of education, but they're sharing it with the world. The Subsistence Education Program also allows the students to share their experiences and knowledge with other people around the world by creating their own websites.
We get a lot of basic skills out of this project because kids are willing to read and develop vocabulary. But on the high end, these kids grow up comfortable with computers. This is the generation that's had computers since they were in kindergarten, so they're comfortable with it. They're real easy about taking all their information, putting together PowerPoint presentations. So they've done that. They've presented these presentations to the community. They've traveled to several different schools. They presented at the Native Educator Conference, and a group of them presented in Tokyo to an international symposium on the environment there. So they're real adept with technology. They've also developed their own websites through the language arts teacher. Part of the project is present all these things, put their pictures together, put their captions in, write their stories, and then they dump it on the website. So they've got an extensive website, you know, with all their different adventures. They get comments on those. People write them, you know, send email to them, say, oh, I look at your website and want to know more about this. A lot of communication with the kids in Japan and with a couple of groups of kids in Israel about their website.
Principal Mike Hall has been a driving force behind the Subsistence Education Program since its creation, and believes that the 4 elements necessary to make this program work in every village across the state are already in most rural communities.
You know, I've found it, I've worked in about 7 different villages now, that you have a high level of parent support. You know, parents are very supportive of their kids. That's one element. You have a highly qualified staff. In terms of a group of people, this is quite a professional crew in terms of the way they approach things. Third big element is we've got an environment here that is an invitation, you know, to use it. I mean, it's a tremendous resource. The other element that and I've been doing this for 25 years, but I'm always surprised, is the attitude of the kids. In that we know they're a receptive bunch, they really are, and they're bright in their own world, deal very competently. It doesn't always translate into the school setting. But as we did this, they'd get excited about it, and they'd take that excitement to the activities we did outdoors. We found that it was not a big step to translate that excitement into the classroom. So they go almost at the same pace. You know, in the outdoors, they can understand the reason for a schedule. We've got to get this, this, and this done before this happens. So you bring them back in the classroom and say, we got to get this, this, and this done you know, by this time. They relate to that a little bit better.
This new attitude towards education has given the youth of Russian Mission a sense of accomplishment and pride. This pride has translated into a kind of confidence it takes to speak in front of hundreds of people in Tokyo, Japan.
The kids are shy. Public speaking is not something that most 7th and 8th graders anywhere are comfortable with, and certainly not village kids. But when we came up with this idea of, okay, we've got these trips planned, but if you're going to go on a trip, you have to present these things. And all kind of, you know, shook their head at that. And says, we can teach you. Okay, I want to do it, you know. And it was just that, of we can teach you, we'll give you time to practice, and they all wanted to try. And so it was a slow process of you write it, we check it, you give it to each other in class. We'd start off with the 2nd grade, they're nice listeners, and we worked through the school, and they just gradually built up this competence in presenting themselves. When they got to Japan, they weren't nervous. I mean, they should have been, but they weren't, you know. But they were in control. They got up there, and here's this big audience, you know, wearing this headset, so there's instant translation going on, and you know, wall-sized screens, all high-tech, and they see themselves in these screens around the room, and they're in control. And they said it was cool because everybody was listening to me. So it's just that magic. By the time they got there, they could do this. So, and I look at that and I say, okay, you take a typical 7th or 8th grade kid, you know, in the village, and say, present in Japan. Blows them away, not a chance. But these kids were willing to walk with us, and again, they took us on a level of trust that probably was established in the field, not in the classroom, but in the field. This guy led me over the mountaintop, and we came home safely, or he led me down the river. We'll probably do this okay. So yeah, they follow the same way.
Although the Subsistence Education Program is in its earliest stages of development, its success in Russian mission is apparent. It has tied together the educations of two cultures in an environment of technology and tradition. I'm Jeannie Green. Look for us next week, won't you? Right here. God bless you. We'll see you then.
Left our home on Hudson Bay, on ships that took us far away, sailing through the broken ice towards the shores of paradise, where they say our new life will begin. I can't wait until my ship comes in, landing on the edge of Ellesmere, wondering if we could survive here. We were told that half would stay, the rest of us were on our way. Will I see my family again? I can't wait until my ship comes in. Casita, sail on. I can't wait until my ship comes in. Our final destination reached, they left us standing on the beach, planted there like human flags, that winter's fury turned to rags. The hunter showed us empty hands again. I can't wait until my ship comes in. Casita, sail on. I can't wait until my ship comes in. القوم ينلبوا سيبولي بينيبوا أبسوه بالعمتا إنو يسوى بسوتي تكسيوتي لو لابون إنا تقاقتي كسيتا. So the story carries on. What's done is done, what's gone is gone. We must put the past behind and set a course for better times. When freedom's lost, nobody ever wins. I can't wait until my ship comes in. I think I hear voices in the wind, telling me my ship will soon come in.